A faith community awaits the arrival of a famous wise man whom they had invited to dinner. A knock comes at the door. They open the door only to find a poorly dressed man. Eagerly awaiting their invited guest, they shoo this beggar away. Again he knocks. Again they shoo him away. A third knock, and finally they see their eagerly awaited guest, dressed in all his finery. Welcomed in with great fanfare, the guest takes off his cloak and sets it in the middle of the room, revealing that he was the one whom they had dismissed. The wise man walks back toward the door and simply says, "I assume it is my cloak you invited to dinner, since when I first arrived without it, you did not invite me in." This wisdom story echoes our letter from James today, who warns us not to make distinctions among ourselves and thus judge one another. It is the next line, though, that catches my spirit, because in the next breath, St. James writes, "Listen, my beloved brothers and sisters." Beloved, we can learn a lot from James, who speaks challenging truths, but in the process does not himself end up judging. No. James speaks with tenderness as one whose identity is rooted in Jesus the Christ, whose own ministry is one of deep encounter. Pope Francis reminds us, quote, "Faith is an encounter with Jesus, and we must do what Jesus does, encounter others. We must create a culture of encounter, a culture of friendship, a culture in which we find brothers and sisters, in which we can also speak with those who think differently, as well as those who hold other beliefs. They all have something in common with us. They are images of God. They are children of God," end quote. In the gospel today, the crowd is pressing in. And perhaps if you close your eyes, you can feel that crowd jostling, bodies colliding. You can hear lips murmuring. You can see anticipation in the people's eyes, the arms leading the way, weaving through the crowd. Yes, the crowd is pressing in, and the man who is deaf finally nears Christ. Now, Christ could have healed the physical body without a word and let him melt back into the crowd. But Jesus, the Christ, sees the whole person, body and soul. Jesus, the Christ, sees more than the deaf, the blind, the rich, the poor. Jesus sees more than the Republican, the Democrat. Christ encounters whole persons, body and soul, persons who are more than one aspect of their lives. This is the wisdom embodied and alive in Christ, this wisdom of encounter. And this is the wisdom we are invited to embody too. We are invited to welcome the whole of people's identities, to open our hearts and encounter the whole of their lives. Today, we are invited to encounter the image of God alive in one another.